Thanks everyone for coming back to our next edition of Econ Talks. Gareth, the employment market, seemingly going better than we might have expected, not quite as significant of a hit throughout the likes of the Auckland resurgence with COVID-19. Still seems like there's some job prospects out there for people.
Yeah, it seems like with the Auckland lockdown that, businesses have been more able to adapt than to the initial lockdown, which is good. Know how these things work a little bit more. But also, yeah, you look at that labour market, big wave of job losses through April with the lockdown, and businesses almost a bit of a knee-jerk reaction, you'd say, in some respects, because what we've seen since then has been quite a stable market, really, overall.
Yeah, absolutely. The latest job numbers from Stats NZ's monthly employment indicators very much backing up that view. Job numbers are coming back a bit. There's always seasonality and changes coming through, but there's certainly been enough heat in there compared to what we might have originally feared. Back a few months ago when we were just about to see the wage subsidy start to come off, looking at a survey that MSD did of wage subsidy holders, about 6% of them thought they might cut jobs quite significantly. And so using that sort of logic, we could well have seen 120,000 people out of work. So far, those job seeker numbers, though, sitting just over, I think, 70 odd thousand. So there's still, quite a lower blow than we might have originally expected. Fantastic news, but we are still seeing those numbers rise quite gradually. And I think that's probably different from what a lot of people originally expected. We thought it would come through as one big hit. What it seems to be now is that like you say, we've had that first initial hit. Now we're starting to see that those numbers are just going to gradually and smoothly rise without any really big jumps. We're seeing what I think 1,000 a week, it seems like on average, going on to some sort of job seeker support. There are those who are still losing their COVID income relief payments, the super benefit, if you will, but there's seemingly still enough action going around.
Yeah, I mean, I think given the strength of spending and domestic demand activity post-lockdown that we've seen, a lot of businesses now, rather than laying off their staff immediately when the wage subsidy runs out, what they're probably doing is taking a bit of a wait and see approach. If you're a retailer, you've got Christmas 1 or 2 months around the corner, I suppose, in terms of that spending rush, and you'll be hoping that spending activity continues through to there. If you're a tourism operator, obviously summer is the peak time for tourism, and so it could be difficult for many of those operators, but I suspect they'll be looking to try and get by as best as possible, and maybe making hard decisions further out. And then for other firms as well, I think if you've got demand conditions holding up okay, you'll keep hold of those staff. But maybe coming up towards Christmas, you've got a period where a lot of businesses will shut down. You don't want to be having to pay staff that you might not have work for in the new year. So it'll be a crunch time, I think, coming through November and into December for some of those employers around the hiring or firing decisions that they may be making.
Absolutely. And one of the challenges, of course, is going to be that although those job numbers themselves are holding up, the total number of people who can, count themselves as employed, the money they might be getting in their back pocket still not quite as good. And again, the latest numbers from Stats highlighting that although the job numbers, I think, were up something like 9,000 month to month, that earnings per worker is down something like 0.5% year on year. So we're still seeing that people are probably not working quite as many hours as they were previously. You're possibly still seeing the remnants of a few pay cuts here and there. But although there seems to be more people in work, they're certainly probably not doing the same amount of work that we've previously seen. So that will eventually hit some of those household budgets. And we've discussed before that we're already seeing some people in hardship, the likes of the Kiwi Saver numbers for financial hardship withdrawals remaining in quite a high position at the moment. So one of those sort of areas will remain challenging, not for everyone, but it does hint at a slightly softer belly of the labour market moving forward. But I think, one of the things that I found quite incredible, Gareth, is that the number of people who are ending their job seeker support or other sort of government support because they're finding work is in just as good of a position, if not better, at the moment than it was last year. And we're in the middle of a pandemic. I think you're seeing people that are cancelling their support because they're still getting into work. And again, I think that highlights that businesses are still looking to hire in some respects. So there still seems to be enough momentum momentum underlying the labour market, that it's all not all doom and gloom yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think those numbers do reflect a bit of the uneven effect of COVID and the pandemic on the economy. You know, some sectors hit very hard, and other ones where demand conditions possibly couldn't be better, and they do need to be taking on more staff. So there is a good news story in there, because we know from our experience with previous hits to the economy, particularly in the late 80s and early 90s, that one of the worst outcomes you can have is that people are left on the unemployment benefit for a long period of time, and they their skills become obsolete. They get out of the habit of working, and it's very hard to get them reintegrated back into the labour force. So if you can, minimise that sort of discouraged and long-term unemployed effect, then it's good for the economy, and obviously good for those people as well over the medium term. I mean, one of the other points I'd make around the labour market as well is look, unemployment. It's we'll have some more numbers on that in the next few weeks, but expectations are that it's not going to be anywhere near as high as we were thinking, or any forecasters were thinking 6 months ago. We're scaling back the extent of the expected job losses that are coming through as we get this, solid performance by the labour market. Still expecting more to come, but the reality is that you look at the wage subsidy that put in place by the government, and it has been effective in mitigating certainly the immediate effects of COVID on the labour market, but even just helping to cushion, I think, things over a longer time frame as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that wage subsidy, we did originally think it was just going to delay the inevitable. And for some firms, it has. But for others, it seems to be holding people much, much tighter to their jobs than we originally feared. So, absolutely some good news there. And we seem to be certainly limiting just how hard of a hit the labour market, and therefore people and their livelihoods have taken. So that's always reassuring. And if there's one thing you want to be wrong about, it's the huge number of Kiwis who might be out of work. So that's a good thing in some senses. Thanks so much, Gareth. Always good to chat. We'll keep a keen eye on what's happening to jobs, but also what's happening to earnings, because I think that difference is going to be one that grows over time, and one we'll have to keep an eye on. But we'll keep updating everyone as we see stuff, and I'll see you and everyone else back on the next edition of Econ Talks.